We've seen a lot of talk about the momentum that the leaders are having on the campaign trail, and especially the size of the crowds. It's always a bit tricky to know what to infer from the size of these crowds. Sometimes political parties will choose a smaller venue and it'll look packed. Sometimes they have a big room with a big number of people and it's hard to tell. But the one thing that we can tell is that the Conservatives are drawing huge crowds, thousands of people when they're having these rallies. It's kind of a bit of a contrast with the New Democrats. The NDP have been having smaller sorts of rallies. Sometimes it's really just a dozen or less people who aren't actual candidates or volunteers. And sometimes people will say, oh, it's the time of day, or there's more enthusiasm out there, but it's not really been the best look for Jagmeet Singh. The NDP leader this week had brought out the same person 3 days apart at different press conferences to talk about housing issues and someone's personal story. And it was a really interesting look at how these trends are affecting people. But if you have the same person multiple times, it's not always the best sort of signal about how much enthusiasm you can really drum up here. We've seen each of the three main parties put out a tax cut for the middle class rate. That's the one that affects the vast majority of Canadians. They've also been talking about public safety, crime, housing has been a big one for the different parties, but it really has been US President Donald Trump taking up a lot of the energy on the campaign trail. We saw this week on Wednesday, Donald Trump had talked about putting automotive tariffs, something that would be fairly catastrophic, a 25% import tax on vehicles and auto parts coming from Ontario, especially that would be bad, but all across Canada, it would have huge reverberations for our economy. And so we saw Liberal leader Mark Carney take off that hat and put on his other hat of Prime Minister and sort of rallied the cabinet committee to talk about the options. He had the Premier speaking with him on Friday. And in between those two, he spoke with Trump himself. And it really surprised us coming out of that call. Trump not only referred to Carney as the Prime Minister of Canada instead of Justin Trudeau being the governor of a US state, he also said that there's lots of progress, that they can really work together. So it really surprised us on the Hill to see such a positive expression from Donald Trump. And now we're all sort of curious what actually was said in that call. Trump has taken a lot of the oxygen from the campaign race, and I think most pundits would say that that's benefiting Liberal leader Mark Carney. It makes him look prime ministerial when he's addressing the nation. It's a bit more of a challenge for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. He's been trying to roll out different policies. All of this week at 7 a.m., we see on his Twitter a different topic that he's outlining what he wants to do. A fair amount of meat in those policies as they roll out. And yet it just seems like Trump comes along, people in the White House, and every day it sort of takes us way off topic from whatever the Conservatives are trying to throw onto the media agenda for the day. For the Canadian Press, I'm Dylan Robertson.